question.
I'm going to call the meeting to order, being it's 9 o'clock. Okay. Starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. I do want to move one of our discussion item number 3 to the first thing on the agenda.
All report. Hang on one second, Teresa. Brian, how are you doing for? So we'll look at the next week. Okay. This week? Next week, yes. Okay. All right. Sorry, Teresa, continue.
Okay, did you hear what I said?
No, I was trying to, let me explain
Okay.
quick. I wrote on here, Brian wanted to get approval to come on next week to talk about tree removal for the airport. And so at committee, Steve and I talked to him and said we, put them on or whatever, but it's not going to be in his packet, so I wrote it down to add
For
it
next week?
for next
Next
week.
week, yeah.
So just so you know when this comes by, that add that to it.
Sounds good.
Okay, now we got to clarify. Continue on.
Now, back to this week. I'm going to move discussion item number 3 to the top of the agenda. Just so I had brought that up last week about having a motion to amend our parameters for the policy for public comment period. I think you all got it in your packet too this week, so. Anyway, any other agenda items to be added or anything else from committee or anything? Okay. Approval of the minutes from last week. Oh, wait.
We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, did we approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda with amendment.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now moving on to the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I thought about that. Any further discussion?
We didn't
We got a second.
second.
I will second that.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the discussion on our public policy comment. We do welcome everybody's input and their discussion items, but I did present to the board last week some amendments or additions to our policy. I think everybody has that. Do you want me to reread them or do you have them? I was looking for a motion.
Well, reread it, Teresa, because I don't have that one.
Okay.
And I was looking at the packet thing, but I didn't get that one this one.
Just the addition one.
The addition one is, as Houston County Board meetings are recorded entirely, personal video recording will only be allowed behind the presenter desk area and to the side of the room. Please do not move around during the meetings as distracting to all. That's the amendment.
Oh, is this those two things?
Yeah,
It's just on the video recording.
Oh,
Is that all you?
well, this is what,
You had three. You had 3 of them.
Yeah.
I had 3 of them, but do we want to go one at a time? Or do you want to?
Oh, you're gonna do one at a time.
Or should I read them all?
sure.
yeah, why you do
Okay. Number 1, public comment is limited to one person on one subject, and we can allow one person to share their concerns and state that person's ABC, etc. also joins in on this comment. The second one, I think we already have in our with the no, I can read it. The county attorney has indicated that complaints about Houston County employees should go through the Houston County HR department, should not be allowed to go through public comment period. Allegations are serious and we want to take them seriously. Unless a report is made and properly addressed, this is a disservice to those who are making the complaint, but it is also a way to ensure that an employee who's being complained against has the opportunity to properly respond if need be. Finally, there should be concerns about where information may be coming from, and we do not want to open up a dialogue that could possibly allow data practice violations. And I already read the third one on personal video recording.
I am, like, the personal video recording one, I think is fine, and, you know, we talked about that, the planning commission meeting and stuff, I know, you know, just staying
Behind
back,
the fence.
just being curious, we have the deal. I'm finding that, you know, talking about the employees, I understand where we can get the data practices, data privacy issues and things like that. I just wouldn't want anybody to construe that we're not allowing them to express concerns if they have a concern with a department, if they've got a concern like, hey, this happened, I need you to be aware, you know. So there's that fine line of
I think it's,
don't tell us any complaints versus, you know, but I understand with, you
I
know,
think you
making
need
sure
to
you.
keep the names out.
Yes, yeah.
Names out.
And I talked to Jamie about that too, and she said, you know, if you've got an issue, try and keep it to the department, not a person
Yeah.
specific. Okay, so, I mean, I understand that one too. My only issue with that first one though is we talk about the public comment, one comment per issue. I'm going to say that I would be fine with this if that was taken out. And the reason is I don't know how you're going to enforce that. You know, and that's,
I
you know, I mean, are
understand
people
your
going to have
concern on
to
that.
meet beforehand and discuss what they're all talking about? And well, you're going to talk about this, so I won't. You know, I mean, that's going to be a hard one to enforce.
I do understand that. I'm more concerned with number 2 and 3.
Yeah. And I think those are valid, and you know, and as far as,
We can have further discussion during one of our strategic planning meetings on the other.
correct.
I'll make a motion to go with amending or adding to our public comment period policy, number 2 and 3, as stated.
It's okay with me.
Someone wants to second it.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Might want to get us a new
Yep,
time.
I will.
Okay, moving on then, we will open public comment period.
Sarah, can you make sure we all get a copy of the...
I will do that.
too? Thank you. Let's see what color it is.
Not much.
Not much.
Thank you, Beth.
I'm Beth Sweeney from Money Creek. And basically what this is, the section in the middle here, in quotation marks, is a transcript of the final remarks Tom Landwehr, the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, made on Wednesday the 21st at the Environmental Quality Board meeting in St. Paul, Minnesota. The underlining indicates my emphases, not Commissioner Landwehr's. And I include my emphases in order to draw your attention to the points he made in those remarks. What he said. Just a closing observation on this. In this very controversial area, with very strong positions on both sides, it is absolutely critical that we keep good public process and public documentation. And I'm not seeing good public documentation that the CUP was extended uninterrupted. So I think we're going to have to make sure when we throw that back to the county that the county needs to provide that documentation, that there is not a lapse in the permit. And perhaps it's not so much a discussion, a consideration for this discussion, but at this point in time, it's my belief that a trout stream setback would be needed if any sand would be extracted. But I think the other element of that question would be whether or not an EAW is still, the petition for an EAW or the requirement for the EAW is still standing, which everything I've seen suggests that it is. And again, there are specific actions that need to be taken to start an EAW. There are specific actions that need to be done to deny an EAW. So one of them, for instance, includes a publication in the EQB Monitor. We have not had a request to post an EQB Monitor. So the county is not following the letter of the law and the rules, if that is in fact the position of the county and the other folks. So I just want to stress that it is going to be incredibly important with a very contentious regulatory legal process that we have good public record, and I don't think we have that before us today, end quote. There are 8 sentences. In those 8 sentences, he says 5 different times that Houston County does not have a good public record, that the county, quote, is not following the letter of the law and the rules, end quote.
Thank you, Betsy.
The rules, the statutes, the laws, the ordinances are all online. I can find them, you can find them. Please, let's follow the rules. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the board at this time? In that case, Brian?
Morning, Commissioners. On the agenda for accepting quotes for stockpile aggregate and equipment rental today. Starting with the stockpile quotes, we received quotes from 5 different contractors or suppliers. We do this every year. We typically try to accept all the quotes, and when we do a project, depending on what part of the county who has quarries available or aggregate available, we'll select the close by quarry that has lowest price. So if we need 2 quarries close by, whichever one's lower we'll select. If there's only 1 quarry close by and they have a higher price, we'll select them because it's more economical than hauling rock from halfway across the county. So typically we'll accept every quote. So my recommendation is to accept every quote again this year, and then we'll select the rock from whatever supplier we need at that time. And this is typically used for doing small projects. You know, do a pipe replacement, need to have a few yards worth or a few dump trucks worth of aggregate. We do this type of stuff. You know, if it's a large project, we go out there and prepare bids or quotes for that specific project.
This is something we do every year anyway, just so that we're ready
Yep.
for any need.
I move to accept all quotes as presented.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The second one is the equipment rental. We had 7 companies submit their prices for equipment rental. On this, we have rentals for a wide variety of items, going from anywhere from a general laborer to chainsaw, dozer, backhoe, dump truck, different compactors. Similar type of situation where if we don't have that equipment available, or if we don't have enough of whatever type we need, we can go out there and hire a contractor to assist us. This is again for the small projects. Typically, you don't need to have a pipe replaced, our pipe cruised into something else. Or if if we have a flood, we need to get people in a hurry to help us out. We don't need to go out to each contractor, get numbers back from them before selecting which contractor is going to help us out. We can go out there, we can get that contractor going, and we have numbers on what the rate's going to be for us. So this originally started after the right around the 2007 flood time, after dealing with FEMA and stuff, saying, hey, if you don't have numbers from contractors, you can't start any work. So.
Any questions for Brian on that?
Looks like a good plan. Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And one quick update. County 5 was going to be started this week, but we're actually pushing back the start date until next week, so there will be some signage going up this week potentially, but traffic can get through all week. So anyone that's impacted, school buses, emergency services, residents.
Probably a good idea with school coming to an end now.
Yep. So that'll start, next week, Monday.
If the city tore up the street in La Crescent, down on 7th and Hill, do they fix it or do we fix it?
The city tears it up, they fix it.
So that's a city issue there.
Talking about where the water main broke.
Yeah,
Yep, the city will pay for that.
okay. Just had a few questions on it, so,
Yep.
thank you.
Gotcha, next week.
Okay.
For that tree thing, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. While we're waiting for Bob to come in, Doug, you want to talk on your boat and water safety grant?
Super. I gave the packet to Shar, good morning, Commissioners. I gave the packet to Shar. We did receive a federal boat grant through the state, Chief, is that correct?
It's dispersed through the state. It's the same one we get every year.
It's for $5,000. That goes for wages and benefits and anything to do with river patrol again. So if the board would accept that.
It's a little bit different on the federal. It has to be used for enforcement. You can't use it for search and rescue or educational purposes. It has to be used for being out there actually looking for violations. So that's what we use it for.
Motion to approve the grant.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Hard to turn down a grant.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to approve the consent agenda while we're waiting?
Oh, sure. That'd be great, yeah.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
You guys want to talk about Wildcat stuff?
Well,
Here comes Bob now.
we have people coming in to present.
Oh, I just don't know if it's going to take a while.
We're ready for you. Ready?
This is the final plat for Larry Hanson subdivision, and just need a county board chairperson signature on that. There's 3 copies here, and the board approved that last fall for Larry to go ahead and finalize that. So, Northleaf Surveying prepared the final plat, and got several signatures on it yet already, but we're waiting for, auditor and treasurer and recorder are the very final ones, and then you guys. So, just need a chairperson signature.
Sure.
Pen here.
We need a motion. We need a motion.
Yeah, you may as well.
Well, we should. Okay. Motion to approve final signing of the Hanson plat.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, anything else, Bob? Or is
Nope,
that it?
That's all I've got today. Need a county auditor attest the signature here too.
Oh, yeah.
So, date it, and then your signature there.
Okay.
What is the date?
27.
Only have one magic pen?
Yeah.
3 of them?
Yep, 3 copies there.
We're going to put in kind of time frame on the, getting information. and
Thank
so we
you.
can decide on that. Jill, so we can
Yeah, I
decide.
think we need to put a time on it.
Because this is just going to keep going and going
Yeah.
and
I'd like to
going.
move on.
Service masters, normally no.
So when we-
Looks
Huh?
like service masters, no.
Yeah, they're done.
We toured it last.
Do you want to talk about the discussion thing?
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Just doing some kind of timeline on this.
Oh, yeah, obviously, never mind, it's not unfinished.
This should be an unfinished.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Wildcat?
Yeah.
Everybody's here?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to bring the Wildcat Park Committee to the front. And if you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Jake Lankowski, run the Wildcat Park.
I'm Barb Kirchhoff on the committee.
I'm Ernie Sloan on the committee. And we're here to get approved something proposed down there. Houston County lease with the Corps of Engineers provides that all monies received from operations conducted at Wildcat are to be utilized for administration, maintenance, operation, and development of the park. Any such money is not utilized for the park shall be paid back to the Corps. Houston County used to levy for improvements at the Wildcat Park. In 2008, the board gave the county auditor the directive that they wanted the park to be self-sufficient without the use of tax dollars. Since that time, the net profit for expenses amounts to $49,160.24. That must be spent on the park. Again, if it is not used for the park, it must be paid back to the Corps of Engineers. The Wildcat Committee is proposing the following improvements in the Wildcat Park utilizing the portion of that balance. I don't know if you've got, if you have a copy of these. Okay. The playground for $25,331, and then to install a security light by the south bathroom. And that is with Hoskins. And we wish to have you approve the spending of this money.
Bathrooms and lights is what we're talking about, right?
And the playground equipment.
Yeah.
A motion to approve the request.
Second.
Further discussions or questions for the committee?
What was it that, so that's the 49 is what we have in the deal, right? What was it that Karen was talking about last week?
Apparently, she doesn't even remember.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
No, last year was when we first started doing the fund balance carryover into the department. And like, I gave you a copy of the minutes from April, and it had talked about the 22,000, so that's what we put in. Then last week when I did the budget amendment, I added the 11,000, but it didn't go back to the whole thing that you were talking about. So we'll just make a different budget amendment then.
Yes.
If you're only going back to 2008 and not taking into consideration the expenses that have been paid by the county.
So you would have to do a budget amendment
We'll do
to
another budget amendment.
to bring it up to the 49,000? Is that basically what you're stating?
As long as you're only going to go back to 2008.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about money's there, I mean, it's not a,
It's part of our cash balance.
And it's money that is supposed to be spent there, so.
And if you don't spend it there, you're gonna have to, it's gotta go back to the Corps.
So when
We
was
get
that
nothing
agreement?
out of the Corps right now.
When was that agreement signed with the Corps?
It's
That
part of
was
the,
in the lease.
It's in the
It's in
lease.
the
I'd have to
lease.
pull it out, I don't know the year off the top of my
I
head.
mean, way back
It's been a few years.
when.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
5 years from the date of that, the last lease.
Motion on the floor.
And been seconded.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
I
passed.
got one thing.
Okay.
Did I misunderstand you about, was, Tri-County gonna bring a pole down there?
Yes, they're bringing it over.
Well, Hoskins got it in the bid.
Okay, so we'll just get it taken out.
Well, you better contact them, because
Okay.
that was, because I asked them the other day, 'cause I thought you said that they're gonna bring a pole
Yeah,
down.
because I just talked to them. Friday, was it when I was?
Who, Hoskins?
No, I
Oh,
talked to
Tri-County?
Tri-County.
But who's gonna put the pole in?
Hoskins gonna
Haas
put it in,
gonna
but
put
he
it
bid
in,
it.
but Tri-County's
You know,
going
right
to
here.
provide it.
See, where-
And then they're bringing those other things down. He said as soon as they could have a crew down.
So
there,
that'd
they'd
probably
drop
be,
it out.
the pole, well, you know,
Right,
deducted from that, wouldn't be,
right. But I hadn't talked to Hoskins yet, so,
well, I get Owen right away, because I think he's got it ordered.
okay. All right, we will.
But Hoskins will put it in.
Yeah, they go for that, it's all staked out and everything, ready to go.
I'll email Brian right away, because he's the one who talked to Hoskins.
Good. You got your playground equipment.
Well, I had to go out of children down there this weekend, and they were kind of enthusiastic about what I said. We might get it, we might not, I don't know. But then they ready to make a plus towards the place. Because there's only so much for them to do, they're playing kickball and everything else, but they, you know, like little kids like them swinging and stuff.
Yeah. So the next thing we're gonna work on is more grants to try and get the bathrooms and the sewers
Yeah.
on down there.
Well, a little bit of that tonight, but it's gonna have to come, because
Yep,
I know, you know, there's people talking, saying that they really, they come back here, but they had some decent bathrooms, you know. I mean, they're terrible.
yep,
It is a deterrent.
it is, yes.
I thought about 2 overs from near it, wasn't bad. These are terrible.
Yeah,
I got a question for the board as far as, we're trying to get grants. If we happen to get a grant that we'd have to match funds, is the county board going to back us on that?
All grants need to be approved, I guess, you know, by the board in advance.
Yeah.
So if you're going to apply for a grant, that has to come to us. You know, is that right?
Right.
Okay. And then we would decide at that point.
Depending on how much the matching is and where we're gonna get the money from, or if it's just gonna be a loan from Wildcat for 2 years and then let it replenish itself, or if it's gonna be from fund balance, or, you know, it's gonna be.
so there is a possibility that we could do that, get a loan from,
It's workable.
you know, so that we could pay it back out of the money that we make.
Well, I just brainstorm, I have no idea, but I would assume, you know, we could loan from ourselves if we're getting, if we're showing revenue. I don't know, Carol, is that even legal to do that, or possible that?
You would just be spending the money, you wouldn't be loaning it.
Well, I mean, you spend it out of fund balance and just replenish yourself with the Wildcat funds.
You would
you know.
just require that Wildcat didn't spend those profits if
Right.
they
Right,
haven't,
right.
until that money is paid back.
And I'd say, if there's,
Replenish.
That makes
if there's
sense.
grants, you know, like you said, the
Okay.
bathrooms would be a good thing to.
That's one possibility, that
Yeah.
you can use fund balance or.
Yep. So.
No, I just got the letter.
Go through a
How-
grant,
you get this
do all
letter?
the work, and then, so if we get to the point where we gotta have some matching funds, and we have to turn it down, all that work is done.
Well, and I think the big thing is if you were applying for a grant, you'd know what, how much it's gonna be for and what the match is, so we would know ahead of time what we're looking at. And if it was something where it was a $750,000 match, we could tell you right now, no, that's not gonna happen, don't waste your time. But I mean, if it was something where it's a $5,000 match or something, you know, that's very feasible, so,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
And another thing I would like to ask you, you support the Fair Board, the Historical Society, and whatever, with matching funds on them things. Why doesn't Houston County match funds with us on things down there?
Can you give us an example of when that's happened, or what are you speaking of?
Well, I think the Historical Society if they raise $5,000, you match up to $5,000.
I don't think so. We have a oh, do we?
Oh, yes, that,
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought we
that was
just
when
had it.
I was county commissioner.
Right, that's our
Yeah.
appropriation that we put in.
Yeah,
There's not a match along with it though, is it?
Didn't one time they
Okay.
level a bill rate?
There's two, we do an appropriation plus a $5,000 matching fund as long as they show that they have it.
and I don't know what the fair board, how that works with the fair board, or SIMCAC, or all the other. That park down there is your responsibility because you signed this lease with the Corps of Engineers.
Well, I think it's something we can look into and talk about.
We typically wouldn't send an appropriation to our own department.
No.
I think, that, you know, Wildcat is where you come to the board, you have your committee, you make recommendations. The board in 2008 said they wanted it to be self-sustaining. Maybe that's not an option with the things that need to be done down there. So maybe the county does just have to continue to levy to operate that park,
Right.
you know? But
At least until we could get it improved, you know,
Well, up to a
because,
standard.
right, get it up to a standard, which it hasn't.
I mean, it's something we can bring up at budget time. It's too late to do anything this year.
Yeah, because it will be on the budget discussion.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think it's gonna be, it's a moneymaker, but you gotta keep, like anything else, you gotta improve, you know, keep up with times.
Yep.
I mean, I had a lot of calls, do you have sewer hookups? No, we don't have those,
That's huge.
you know, that's huge. No, and if that's the case, you have to raise the prices, you know, whatever. To offset it.
Yeah, we just have to look at it all, but we need to at budget time address.
Then we got the problem to the county highway department. If they do any work down there, they charge us back for that. Then we have to pay back to the highway department. That's part of the county job. I would think the highway department should budget in their budget something for Wildcat too, and for the work they do down there. And that don't come out of our operation money.
It's the same thing with airport too.
Yeah.
You know, they do the same thing, but yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk to Brian and see what we do with that.
Any questions for us, guys?
No, I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you. I've been on that committee for over 20 years, so I've got a little,
It's a real plus for Houston
I got a
County in
little
many
history
ways.
of
Yeah.
You know, brings it.
what's going on.
That's a nice river access.
Let's hope the river goes down.
Pardon?
Let's hope the river goes down.
Yeah.
It's dropping, it's down to 9 something now, so.
How's the shoreline?
We got stuff, we gotta make.
So when we hear that, when the equipment is coming in, then we'll be getting together a group that will be coming down to put the equipment together, and that'll be all volunteers.
Are they gonna deliver it or what? Isn't that quite a bit,
Yes.
freight, 1,700? Where did you buy that?
It's a state bid through Berkey,
Oh,
and we checked, I mean, we compared prices and checked everything.
where's they out of Fond du Lac or somewhere?
Yeah, it's not too
Gee,
far.
$1,700 freight to bring it there, I think that's great.
It's a lot of stuff,
You know, I imagine.
Probably semi-loaded.
It would come on a semi or two.
Yeah,
yeah. So it'll be a big load, but we're gonna,
what, do you need, end loader to get the stuff off or what? I haven't.
we'll leave that, Brian's in charge of that part,
Oh,
so we'll let him,
yeah,
without billing us anything.
that ain't never gonna happen.
Is the company putting it in?
No, we're
No,
putting it in with volunteers.
Volunteers.
You get enough people, I think one day you could have it done.
That's what
you
we're
know.
hoping for.
I think it's just snapping everything together.
Lots of bolts.
You think that's gonna be a nice spot there, or?
Yeah, I really do.
You know, or otherwise, you know where the horseshoe pits are? No one ever uses it, you know, and that's all, you know, it's by the number one shelter there, you know,
Yep.
under the big tree there, that'd be a nice spot too, but you want it back there, it doesn't make.
I think it's a good place back there because it allows for maybe more expansion of other things like
Yeah.
in that area. If we're not doing horseshoes, we can do something else. Because that's a big area, whereas
Yeah.
this is just kind of a nice, low traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for all your work. We'll see you at budget time now.
I'm going to ask Shar a question. All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Want to move Tess up a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Except Brian just walked in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Some information to hand out. There isn't a request for a decision on this information. It's just time to share preliminary information regarding jail staffing so that you have it ahead of time. And we'll discuss it in a lot more detail next week, but I can give you a little bit of a head start on it, if you will, as to summarize the meetings that we had. And there was a meeting that was last Thursday, Carol, myself, jail administrator Mark Schultz, and County Sheriff Doug Ely sat down and went through all of these numbers that Carol had prepared for us. And so let me just hand you out a copy. I would have emailed it to you this weekend, except for I was having technical difficulties with a new piece of equipment that wasn't operating correctly. So Amazon, it's got it fixed now. Oops, I thought I made enough of these. I will. If you can share there for a moment. Yes, and then I'll get you other copies. Okay. So, about 2.5 years ago, we were in a little over 2 years ago, we were in a discussion as to what appropriate staffing levels might be for our new jail facility. And since we made best estimates at the time, very conservatively, I might add, to staff the facility. As you may recall, the board also received testimony from representatives from the Department of Corrections who were down to give their recommendations as to what they felt appropriate staffing for the facility would be. It was quite lively discussion at the time because the numbers we had a lot of things up in the air at the time. We had the rate up in the air at the time, we had weather, et cetera. We were a little confused at the time as to what the minimum requirements were. Then subsequent meetings that was clarified. And so here's where we are today. The reason I asked Carol to pull this together, which I think she did a remarkable job,
on this. The reason why I wanted to do this is to compare what are we spending on temporary employees, what is it that we're spending on overtime pay, what is it that we're spending on comp time, what is it that, and why does it matter? Well, there's a couple of things that are impacted, that we need to, that impact the county and staffing that we need to address. One of them, I'll just put this out there, is the Affordable Care Act. You know, there's a new definition of what full-time is, and that's 30 hours or more, and then you're required to pay full-time benefits. So we really need to look at what our part-time employees, how many hours are they working? Are they working 30 or more? If so, maybe they need to be full-time, or are we able to keep that actually at part-time? Part-time for the jail, we hire for 20 hours, but all too frequently, we are running well over 20 hours. We're asking most people to work a lot more than that. Simply because we need coverage for sick leave, we need coverage for vacations, we need coverage for other family emergencies, bereavement, etc. The next thing that's impacted is the Public Employee Labor Relations Act, and that is how we use 67-day employees. And there's some very strict rules around how they should be used. One of the things that we should exercise caution on is using 67-day employees in an amount that equals, over a period of time, a regular full-time employee or a regular part-time employee, etc. So we really, in the spirit of that, we needed to do this study as well, so we could really analyze that, because that would be a liability for the county. We don't want to be fined on that. And there's been some rather recent arbitration in the last year and a half with the city of Rochester over that exact same issue. So those are two drivers, not to mention the economic costs. Now, what I want to pull your attention to is that there's just a couple of things here, and I don't want to belabor this at all. But if you would, I highlighted the comp time paid out. That's the equivalent of, you know, when people earn comp time, they earn it at time and a half. So every hour that they work over, if they elect to take comp time, they get an hour and a half back. That's fair, it's appropriate. I'm not here to make a comment about that at all. And I don't want to wish to go there. But the fact of the matter is, it is the equivalent payout of the comp time that we've done of $28,000 for 2013, $822. The premium pay, I'm just looking at the single sheet on the right-hand side. This is just a brief summary. The premium pay is overtime pay. That's $22,000. All of this is in your spreadsheet up here. But in addition to that, let me point out for year 2013, make sure I'm on the correct line here. The temporary employees on top of that for 2013 was $83,000. Now, we have the equivalent in the jail right now of, excluding 67-day employees, of 13 FTEs, and some combination of part-time, full-time. Okay, then plus the 67-day employees. If you know what we're looking at is, we're really funding 16 FTEs, even though we have hired 13 FTEs. So what like I said, I don't want to go into a lot of more discussion. I'm happy to take your questions, don't get me wrong, but on that, other than to say that we sat down and talked about what might we do to be more effective, to where we can actually get our half-time folks down to half-time, and minimally rely on the 67-day employees. We still will have to for transport officers, but really minimally rely on that. And I think we do for boat patrol as well. But, so it appears at this point, you know, Mark is out right now, but on leave, but when he comes back, we've been talking about what would allow us the most flexibility to fill in for when they have the vacations, when they have sick leaves, whether they're long-term or short-term, all that, is hiring more half-time people. And Mark really truly believes the market is there, that we would not have difficulty attracting a pool of people. So next week, we'll be coming talking about that request, what that would mean. Obviously, 3 FTEs would be 6 half-times. I am not comfortable saying we would ask for 6 half-time employees at this time. I would rather phase, look and see how we're doing and phase it in. But I would be very, very comfortable asking for and knowing that we truly could use 4 half-time employees in addition to our current staff that we have. You will get, and what the county gets is a lot more hours out of it. A lot more hours, because keep in mind, when you're paying comp time and premium time, that's one person at time and a half, basically. So if you back that out, you're not really getting the coverage for the money. You really are not getting the coverage for the money. And in addition, you are looking at potentially pushing up your cost because of the 30-hour-a-week rule under the ACA. Plus, we really do need to take care of how we are staffing the 6 to 7 day employees there. Now that we have a history and we can look at it, and we now know and have facts. So, any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
So Tess, you have on your chart, I'm trying to figure out, so comp time, comp paid out, and premium paid out will be added together because you have one, right? Is that how that's, right?
That plus $83,000 up from up above is, I'm thinking it's about $134,000.
Okay, refreshing where the 83,000 come from?
Pardon me?
Where the 83,000 come from?
It is your
The
67 day employees. Now, not all of that, I'm just pulling out 2013 figures. Some of that 83 is you're going to still need that because you need transport officers, and there may be possibly, I don't think we'll be using them in the jail itself, though. I think it'll be restricted to transport officers and probably boat patrol. But you may have a person or two on call. The issue, once we do this, and we don't have hours to give on-call people, we probably aren't going to have anybody that's willing to be on call for us either. So we need to, when we do this, make it right and make it work for us. With flexibility of those half-time 20-hour people that we could, say if they could work 25 hours some week, then we have coverage. And we're still, there's flexibility there. They absolutely need to have staffing flexibility just simply because of the DOC rules and they needing the leads and all that. And it's very difficult for them right now.
I'm confident that we're being very efficient with our scheduling, that we're not.
Absolutely. I have no reservations about that. We are scheduling at minimal staffing. Now, this would probably put us over minimum staffing at any point in time because you may have the extra person that's out there floating around, but it still would be much more efficient and effective. And I say at any point in time because it depends upon when you can't say when all those sick leaves pop in. I have no idea when people need to be out on emergency leave. So we will staff minimally as much as possible, but those half-time people are going to have to be guaranteed half-time hours. Now, the thing of it is that we are half-times right now are pushing 30 hours. And sometimes a little over. Is that fair?
They're typically between, I would say, closer to 33 to 38 hours.
So this isn't going to put us much over. This is a very responsible.
30?
I think it's timely. It's appropriate. We get a lot more coverage for what appears to be, not appears, it'll be the same cost. I mean, don't look at this as a cost savings. It's certainly not going to cost us more. There may be in any given, there may be some savings, it just depends, but this isn't a measure to save dollars. This is a measure to be more effective with the dollars we have.
And we're burning out employees by having them work so many hours too.
It can be a stressful job over there. I mean, let's face it, it can be a difficult job. These people also do, this isn't just jail, this is jail dispatch. These are difficult jobs, stressful jobs. But we also need people that are fresh, that aren't working overtime, a lot of overtime. And it's not that we're trying to deny people overtime. There may be the occasional, because you have the odd need come up for overtime, but like I said, it's something that's been in the works that for the last 2.5 years that we've been looking at, and now we have the figures, and we seem consistent, and it's for your consideration.
Now, you mentioned that this is information we're probably this next week for vote, or what?
I believe so. We really need to, what we'll be bringing forth next week is, if you, the agenda is, we're interviewing lead workers right now from our internal search. And so we will be bringing forth, as we do those interviews on Thursday. So hopefully we'll have a name for you by next Tuesday, which creates an opening in staff. That would be in addition to this. That's just existing, refilling the vacancy. And then I would like to, after I've had a chance to really talk with Mark and the sheriff just a little more, get a solid number together for you. And like I said, we do the dollars seem to shake out, like I said, for 6 FTE, but maybe 4 or 5 is more. I'd rather add it at a later date than to have it over.
The other thing that I've been gone, but I've been talking to Mark on my phone, email about it, is we've already exceeded several times our 30 inmate licensing. And the DOC is okay with that as long as it's a temporary, over the weekend type ordeal where we get people to court Monday and they're gone. It's not a long-term occurrence. And we're also looking at contracting with the city of La Crosse and also the state of Minnesota to take prisoners. And there is another licensing threshold of up to 40 inmates. And how many employees do we have to hire to get to 40? And it may fit very closely with the amount that Tess is talking about adding currently. So we'd like to throw that into the discussion as well. We're meeting this week with La Crosse to talk about taking their prisoners. And then the state just sent last week, I believe, a contract inquiry to Houston County about taking state prisoners. So if we're already over with our own, we wouldn't have capacity to take anything else. But if we are going to hire, it makes sense to hire to offset and have more employees, so we don't burn ours out quite so quickly. Do we hire 4 part-timers, or does 5 part-timers make it that we can increase our licensing to 40? And would that extra half-time position or even 1 FTE make sense to do now and get our licensing to the next level so that we're able to take prisoners and build people back for doing that?
I'll be meeting with Mark on Thursday, so thank you, Scott. The other thing I want to point out is training is very expensive. It makes more sense to spend your training budget on regular employees than constantly on a flux of temporary employees. Because when we're training, those people aren't taking up a full shift, they're shadowing a shift. so to speak. That may not be the correct term, but it is a cost that's costly. And
If you got it, 67 days, you probably spend the first 40
training.
on training alone. And also, the half-time versus full-time equivalent, I think, is a discussion we need to have. Right now, we've had some turnover where some of our 67 days have moved to half, and then they've moved to full-time. And as our base of employees gets younger and there's less turnover, I don't know how long those half-time people are going to stay with us.
Well,
And it's a discussion that we need to have about whether you hire half-time or full-time as in order to retain employees better.
we have had that discussion in our group, and the issue is that for flexibility at this point, if we take in more prisoners, we may have more full-time openings. But at this point in time, what we need is what I'm being told they need is that flexibility for the part-time. And I will confirm that though on Thursday, because that was exactly, we've talked about that quite a bit.
And I'll be at the Thursday meeting now, I'll be back, but I know that flexibility in the halftime there's no difference under contract. They still have the same requirement for number of days before schedule change, and because they're in the contract, they have the same rules. So the flexibility shouldn't be really a whole lot different between part-time and full-time as far as moving people around. There's a little bit more flexibility to give them some hours without giving them overtime. But moving around people, it should be relatively the same.
And from a budget aspect, I know full-time's gonna cost us a significant amount more. You know, if we can get by with part-times right now, you got benefits, and we know that raises come pretty frequent, so, you know, we've got that aspect too. So, you know, we gotta look at that and project out what's, you know, you go to a full-time and add benefits, what does that do, you know, versus.
If we have full-time hours, we need to have full-time staff. I don't want to dance around whether or not we add benefits or not, and that's just my personal philosophy on hiring, because you lose it in turnover. I mean, Scott's absolutely right. What you make, you lose. In addition to some of the things we've talked about here, though, we're talking about people, we're looking at other schedule changes as well. We're looking at having floaters, we're looking at, and there's some labor issues that are consequences that we have to make sure that we're in compliance with the union contracts and how we do the posting of the hours and how we have floaters and we don't have the shift bidding and all of that. So it's a little more complex than just pushing a few numbers in front of you, and that's why we have to look to see what's going to really benefit for us. But and
half-timers under the jail contract get prorated benefits. So if they're hired for a half-time position, they get half-time benefits across the board. So really, in my mind, if you walk it down the line a little bit, if you take the expense of training 2 people at half-time, yes, they get both half benefits, but I've got twice the expense in training. I got twice the expense in equipping, twice the expense in uniforms. If I have one person working full-time, they get the same benefits as 2 half-time, but I'm only training one person. So there's an argument to be made either way, and I'll join the discussion on Thursday. I think we need to look long-term on turnover and training and equipment, and try and come up with what makes the best sense for half-time or full-time.
Scott, you mentioned lacrosse. Where is that at?
We're meeting, it just got signed, like the 15th of May, 16th of May, somewhere in there, it got signed.
What was signed?
The law.
The reciprocity, or like?
The law from Wisconsin that needed to be changed.
Governor finally signed it.
It was not a quick process, as you can imagine, getting something passed.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
Well, does that allow, like, now, like up by say for instance, like Hudson now, they would be able to take over, right? That's a
Yes.
statewide deal, not just this area.
Yep, and originally, we just asked for municipal prisoners,
Sure.
and there's a little bit of difference between municipal prisoners and county prisoners. And we asked for municipal prisoners, and that's what La Crosse City went with. And the legislature said, you know, it's a good idea, and threw county prisoners in on top. So if La Crosse County would have, we're going to have some discussions with La Crosse County too, if they would have a need to segregate, where, you know, they've got 2 suspects involved in one case and they don't want them in the same facility, can we take that prisoner? So we can take county prisoners now as well.
You know, is there, you know, you brought up a good point too. Is there any discussion as far as that goes now that we're able to utilize Wisconsin? Like, is there any talk as far as kind of setting up specialty jail, you know, like we talked one time, you know, like a female or like a mental health, or, you know, I mean, is there talk about that kind of?
There's a lot of talk about it yet, and it dies on the fact of, for decades, we have paid others to take our prisoners. All over Minnesota. I mean, Fergus Falls, we've sent people to. Now the discussion is, well, we'd like to set up these specialty jails where you would take our female prisoners, and down the road we would help you out, take this, but we're not going to pay you. They want to do this transfer, swap, gratuity, handshake deal where we'll make it right down the road with you, but we're not paying you. And it's a little bit from being on the side of being the payee for decades, where we've paid other counties to house our prisoners. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow that now you want us to take your prisoners, but you don't want us to bill you for them. It's a little hard to swallow.
Well, and you know, from past experience too, you know, if you had people with mental health problems or physical problems, I mean, the bills can add up quicker than.
Oh yeah, and unfortunately, those bills don't go away, it doesn't matter where we take them.
Right.
It's just, we can't budget for the medical that we're going to experience. And these people generally get a lot, and you can read article after article about the mental health crisis in our jails. These people aren't well when they come to us. And a lot of them, their coverage ends when they come to us for MA. So then we get put on the hook, and they have medical issues, they have mental health issues, and we pay them and we get them better, and we fix them, and then they come back to us a year later with the same problems they had again. And it's a very difficult budget line to address because we have to pay the bill no matter what. We have to give them the care no matter what, but we have no idea who's coming to us tomorrow. We could get a real high needs prisoner tomorrow that could eat up our budget in a week. And it's that, you know, we would like to budget more, but, you know, it's just a line item that's going to continue to be a battle for many years.
And Commissioner Stark, we're talking in the back room, but we have had discussion with District 6, the local 13 sheriffs of ours, and about, it's easier for an Olmsted County to shut down a pot. If they only have 3 or 4 people, they can shut down a whole pot and put those people out. So what Scott was saying is they want to, you take our 6 this week and we'll take your 7 next week and we'll blah, blah, blah. It doesn't necessarily affect us because no matter what, we still have to staff our jail because they're jailer dispatchers. Where Olmsted counties, they're just considered
Jailer.
a jailer, they have a different name, but a ward,
Detention deputy.
detention deputy. So they can shut down the wing and put those people on furlough if they have to for a month. Where we don't have that option, we still have to have the same amount of people. So
We're at minimum staffing.
stop
I mean,
kind of quickly.
whether we have 4 prisoners or 30, we have the same amount of staff. So shutting down or shipping out a couple prisoners doesn't save us much of anything.
So last thing, I'll let you guys go, but so back to the Wisconsin thing, so that's a done deal, basically, legislation-wise now, it's not
It's
yet.
kind of a done deal, the legislation's done.
Okay,
Now we need to come to that agreement with the city of La Crosse and make sure they understand
okay.
that they're responsible for their prisoners' medicals, in addition to the $50 per day.
So we won't necessarily see anything quite yet, but
I think
it's down the road soon.
I think very soon.
Cool.
I would say before the end of the summer, we're going to be before you with an agreement or some type of contract. Their legal attorneys will actually probably draft it because they have legal staff that would do that. And then Jamie will review it, and then we'll also send it to the Department of Corrections and our Sheriff's Association to check it, because this will be the first one of, I think, several along the Wisconsin side. This started with Pierce County, and Goodhue County are now at the table talking about it as well. Hudson and Stillwater, Superior, and Duluth. This started kind of a change, and there's a need. Pierce County needs to build a jail. They are where we were 5 years ago. And Goodhue County is sitting 6 miles away with a jail that is at half capacity.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunity for some collaboration there, and hopefully some money savings on both sides.
It's a good idea, though.
It's a great idea.
Cool.
And I just, in closing, want to say, the determination of whether to have half-time or full-time is really, in my opinion, lies with the jail over there, because it's whatever they need for their staffing. My recommendation just came out of Mark's recommendation, but that was very preliminary, and we're not at this point ready to ask for it, and we'll have further discussion.
There's some issues that Mark wasn't aware of, and I've been gone, so.
I am not, that's not dictated by HR.
It's nice to have the facts and figures in advance.
And I know that Steve, I believe, came over and spent some time in dispatch. And that's been an open invitation for many years since we moved in here, to come over and see what that single person is responsible for. And I think you would get your eyes open, and it would probably not be a job many of us would want to do. But that invitation is still open if any of the commissioners would like to come sit in dispatch and see what a single person is responsible for. And these hires would help that as well.
And I might say, when looking at any individual year, there are, this is like looking at the trajectory for the stock market. Yeah, the years are going to go like this as far as your overtime and all that. But there is obviously a clear trend as to where we're going. So, and we're based on where we've been, so. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I think that's all I have on the agenda at this point. All the other staffing matters are pushed to next week.
At this time, I believe you don't need any other action on anything on your agenda, so we can actually close this meeting and go into closed session.
Maybe an idea.
You want to finish the rest of the items?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Let's go through unfinished business. Roxanne, issue updates. I don't have anything on the Roxanne issue myself. We have a meeting coming up.
Yeah, next Monday.
Okay.
Right?
That's, but we didn't have one last week, well, Memorial Day too.
Yeah.
No?
In well, you guys were up at the EQB thing. Oh, I suppose.
Yeah, but that wasn't Roxanne, that was
All the Erickson.
Erickson. Highway Department, did you have a chance to do anything on that yet?
No,
I haven't.
I've been just waiting on Steve to see when he feels better.
I've been moving too fast. I'll get on it.
That's okay, we just have to keep it on our, and historic jailhouse, did Tess ever get any information on costs from that? Should have asked, Tess, did you get any, you were expecting at any time from on the structure, the cost of estimates and?
Insurance?
No,
Insurance?
they are going to come
Insurance.
back out and they're sending somebody through.
Because we kind of need a like timeline for this, because we're gonna have to make some decisions, and those decisions need to be made in a fairly timely manner, because we're looking at setting up a new heating system over there for the winter. So,
How much money you want to put into it?
right,
It's like
how
not
much
to-
money,
How much
you know,
insurance
we really need this to move forward.
I understand. And there's, and they believe, they claim they're acting as fast as they can. They will have someone supposedly this week going to doing another walkthrough for the construction cost. I thought that would have taken place prior to Service Master leaving. Apparently it did not. And I just learned it did not. The heating, Commissioner, I'm glad you brought that up. I did ask about whether or not the temporary furnaces that were purchased through the insurance, if we put them in, if they would be adequate to keep the structure over the winter, and I'm informed that they are. So that we would bring those back in. Currently, we are looking at hooking up the exhaust system that was in there in the basement to blow air out, because you know stone walls are porous. So you still have in any building, a moisture issue. So we have that, and we're putting in air movers, if you will, just the portable ones on the floor. I am very anxious for them to get in and finish the work they're doing, but
Are the air movers in there right now?
they will be going in today.
Okay, because if we cleared the mold out of there, we don't want it to
Of course.
come back again.
Well, and you don't clear 100% of them.
Great, but you want to prevent it from.
And John's over there working, absolutely, John's over there working on the air exhaust system and one of the controls. So that's happening today.
Good.
But no, I don't believe anybody's sitting on it. I think what this probably is the reality of summer months and getting contractors together. So it's that. And unfortunately, I'll call Jerry Conway again today, but as I know MCIT is very anxious to get this done, and they're the ones that have made the arrangements and are contracting with them, so we're at a little bit of a disadvantage there. But Mr. Conway's been very trying to push things as fast as he can push them. So we don't have better news than that.
Yeah, let us know when you do get any information, because
I thought we would have that structural report by now.
you thought it was going to be last week.
Because that's what I was told, so
Yeah.
that's just, I'll give them a call today.
Sounds good.
Where is it at? And if they have it, they need to share it with us right away.
And I think we need to be on weekly reports as to where things are, just because it's such a big item and it's out there, and we need to be accountable to the
We'll put it-
public for this.
And I think the other thing too is, when we start approaching budgeting, we gotta have an idea what we're gonna do with that, because it just sits there, and this is what happens when a building sits neglected. Things happen, you don't catch it right away because nobody's there, it turns into a big mess, now it's a big dollar. So, I guess my thing is, I'd like to see this, I shouldn't say use the term rush, but diligently looked at, so that we can, by budget time, figure out, are we gonna tear it down, are we gonna keep it, or are we gonna remodel it? What are we looking at? You know, I mean,
Exactly.
we
Well,
should
I
have a
have
decision.
been pushing that with all parties involved. And as you may recall, I tried to get them all to the table 2 weeks ago here for you, and I will continue pushing on it.
Well, and if we have to put a deadline and tell them we gotta know, I mean, ideally, you'd like to have a decision by like August 1st or September 1st, or, like Judy said, before winter starts to set in, you can't do anything.
And that's when we do
I think
budget.
August
Right.
1st is more than, as far as I would want to push as.
I really think we should set it sooner than that.
Well, I'm saying we should have a decision from the board what we're gonna do with that building. whether
Right,
it's tear it
so
down or
we need
keep it,
their
so-
information before then, because we
Right.
need to make a decision.
Well, it's really interesting how I'm working with insurance companies, I'll tell you that. hurry up when it's, when you're in need of information, but when you're in need of information. And I cannot tell you, commissioners, how many times I've had that conversation. I will call him, I will send him an email that you're all CC'd on, and call, I'll CC the chair.
Sounds
And we'll
good.
make another
And I
call.
think that when we do this unfinished business on the historic jail and everything, you should be here for that discussion.
Thank you.
Even if you have nothing, we need something, yeah.
Well,
Right?
we do. and
I think that needs to be part of that.
But nothing's happened since last Tuesday.
Okay.
Especially when you have a long weekend. It is rare that anybody would be over there doing much with it at all, so.
Okay. Commissioner reports, comments? Dana?
Yes, last week I went to the EQB, and that was a very good meeting. A lot of questions came out of it. It was supposed to be, I think, a half-hour meeting with our county part, and turned into a 2.5-hour testimony. And like I said, I've come up with quite a few questions, and next week we will be, important votes will be coming to our desk. And it's important that we know a few things. And one of the things I wrote in my notes that one of the things I wanted to know is if the CUP truly did expire or was extended, which is the bone of the contention, is that if it wasn't, there should be some kind of a board motion that said it was extended, and they really stressed that we should have that documentation. Mr. Lambert said that. And I think we need to try and find that by next week.
After that meeting, I
You
did
understand
get
that
hold
too,
of...
Teresa?
Yeah.
Is that, I'm not telling.
No, and we
need
actually
to-
are
it's in
working
my
on
notes, we
getting
need to
all
find
that.
that
And
documentation.
they basically gave us
Because if there's no
a list.
documentation, then his CUP did expire.
Well, I have a list of things that they're working on, getting the documentation ready.
And the other thing I had in my notes was EAW. There's some discussion about it. Was there an EAW?
That one too.
Was it ordered to be an EAW? And if there was, if there is an EAW been ordered by the EQB and it hasn't been done yet, the clock cannot be ticking. We always hear where the clock is ticking. And you cannot, the clock does not tick on an EAW when the EAW is pending.
Yeah, I gave that whole list
That's
of
kind of a gray
questions
area
too.
for me, and this all needs to be answered by then.
Yep, and I did tell them that we definitely need
It was
documentation on
excellent.
all those questions.
I really enjoyed the meeting, it was fun. And then the next night, we had the planning and zoning, and then that's coming to our desk next week. So
Okay.
I think we really need to do our due diligence on this and make sure we have all our facts. That we need to make a decision. So, I want to get this behind us too. So it was a very busy week, and I'm really focused on this issue. That's all. One thing, and then I gotta clarify the motion we did earlier today, Teresa, about the videotaping. It says that any videotaping has to be done behind the presenter's desk. Is that thing?
The railing there,
Or
this
behind
is
the
the
railing?
presenter's desk.
I want to get this clear in my mind.
Behind the railing,
So they
It
need
says
to put
presenter's
behind
desk.
the railing.
added to it.
It says presenter's desk on the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, the videotaping should be done behind the railing.
That's a good
So you might wanna-
clarification.
I don't know if you want to change that or not.
Sure.
Because I want to get that clarified.
Okay.
Is that the way you want to vote?
Yes, that is the way I want it, behind the railing and off to the side so that they're
And
not
off to the side.
distracting to
Thank you.
presenters or us.
But that I had kind of,
All right.
when I read it later on, I kind of questioned it.
Good.
Thank
Good.
you.
That's a good
That's
thing.
all I got.
Speaking of EAW, Steve and I were talking in a committee this morning with Rick Frank, and he had mentioned that the EAW is like 90% completed, and it goes up to public comment, and then it's got to come back and just do the finalizing of it. That was some discussion that Rick had mentioned, maybe he was going to bring in and kind of talk to the board about if it's that close to being done, do we want to just finish it? We paid for it, do we want to just finish it? And then it's been done.
We have it.
Yeah. So he just mentioned bringing it up to the board for some discussion, and then he said if we wanted to have him come in.
And then it's done.
Then it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there would be, like he was saying, there'd be a little bit of cost because it'd have to go back to the company, for the finalization, the final deal, but if it's 90% done, you know, you've already paid for it instead of throwing it away and saying, all right, well, let's, you know, you just finish that last little bit.
We could need it down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's almost done, we might as well
Yeah.
finish it.
Yeah.
Won't
So
hurt anything.
90%.
Well, let's have her come in and talk to us.
that's what I'm wondering, you want to put them on the agenda for next week?
Yeah, let's add Rick for next week's agenda.
Okay.
Discussion on that.
Yeah, discussion, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
Okay. That's all I got.
Still laying low. I was at a brief meeting regarding the airport, but it was pretty brief. Nothing to report. So.
I had the Wildcat meeting that we already heard about, that stuff going on. And I also had a CJC meeting, and I'm really impressed with how efficient they want to get things running. I think that that's the most that I bring out of that, is that they work really hard for efficiency. And I think that's all.
Judy, have they decided if they're going to do that metal detector? They were talking about that one.
Great.
Is that still on hold?
Yeah, there's been discussion about it, but it's also a staffing issue. And then when
Oh,
it
yeah.
came down to
You
it,
need to have someone monitor.
the judge would make the final decision as far as what happens over there for that. And my understanding is he takes precedent of having somebody in the courtroom. So that's where we're at.
Thanks.
Well, and we also went on a tour of Alan Stankwitz.
That's right.
That was very interesting. I did send him a thank you from all of us. So I signed your names. But it was very interesting. He's very energy efficient, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Made his own countertops and everything. That impressive.
It was interesting also that he said which things really pay for themselves, and you're not necessarily doing it to be just to save money on your electric bill, but it's out to the,
For the environment.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I mean, because he does get approached by people who just want to save on their electric bill and what should I do? And that was good.
And then I did attend that EQB board meeting, and I have many of the same notes that already presented and talking to people about it. District 9 meeting is coming up June 9th, that's a Monday. And that's the one where we're also supposed to meet with our neighboring counties about collaboration projects. So just a reminder, I think it's, it is Casa, Minnesota, 8 to noon, June 9th.
And then we'll plan on it going longer for a meeting after that.
Yeah, that's what Winona County have presented. They want to meet right after the district meeting. So. And that's all the meetings I had. And approval of claims.
Move to approve the all claims, human services, and health and center sources.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Approved liquor and beer licenses. This is an annual list that we get.
We gotta have liquor.
I make a motion to approve all liquor and beer licenses.
I'll second that.
Yeah, that's
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of snowmobile club request, Houston, Money Creek, and Viking Ridge Riders.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the.
Can I just add one thing with those? I did get a last minute request for reimbursement from Viking Ridge Riders on a capital improvement grant, $24,466.39. We just add that into the motion.
Just the normal patch.
No match
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
You want to add that to it?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion to add that to the approval of some of the requests.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And approve the PRISM grant. Now, what's the PRISM grant again?
I sent you out that, notice what that's all about. Basically, it's so that all the property tax statements in Minnesota funnel into one report for the state. And Craig was asking what PRISM stands for. It's Property Record Information System of Minnesota. We had previously okayed me applying for the grant, and we got the grant, so if you would approve.
Motion to approve the PRISM grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sure. Real quick before we go on, did you get any notification on that land parcel that I was looking at buying?
Yes, and hopefully that'll be next week.
Okay.
Yep, and that was in the
That was
text
in
that
the
went
contract.
out for next week, yep.
Because I don't know, did anybody else get a letter?
You got that letter,
Yeah.
and the township also got a letter.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was kind of fussy about the townships getting
There's
yeah,
our
what's
work.
on that.
Right?
Yep, I
Yeah,
remember.
I think it's 2 minutes.
Recess for.
And then we're going to,
Yep. So Jody, I forwarded you an email from Brian, so I'll print it out.
okay.
If you would take a quick peek at that, if you have a minute.
We're going to recess for a couple of minutes and then we'll go into closed session test.
Thank you.
We need a motion to open the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The board met in closed session for preliminary consideration of allegations against an employee under its authority, and I have no other information at this time.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Judy, you have to